So hi everyone and welcome to this week's video. So today I'm going to be working with double gauze and I'm going to be making myself another Peter Pan collar blouse. So hi and welcome back. Yes, so the one I'm wearing I made, this is the olive blouse. I made this one for my Patreons over on my Patreon page. If you'd like to join me for exclusive content and all my sewing patterns, then the link is in the box below. So the olive blouse, this is the very first olive blouse I made a couple of years ago now. Just self-drafted it and I wanted a Peter Pan collar. I wanted a little blouse that I could wear underneath pinafores and with a nice collar. So this is the one I made, and this one, the original version, has cute little gathered short sleeves and buttons all the way down the back. So I've worn it loads and loads of times and always thought I'll bring it out as a pattern down the line. I made another blouse which was the same with the buttons down the back but with a peplum. So two variations. Worn them both loads of times, really well worn. I really do love this pattern. So then I thought, let's use up my double gauze on my shelf, and I just wanted to use it. It's been on my shelf far too long. Because we're going into autumn and winter, I thought perfect. Now, as I said, I've got a love-hate relationship with this fabric. It's awful to sew, it's got a mind of its own, it just grows. But if you stick with it, it's worth it in the end because it is so soft and comfortable and cosy to wear. And I just thought perfect autumn winter blouses to get me all the way through the cold season. So I was going to make it again with a button down the plaque, and I wanted to do the contrast collar, contrast button placket and contrast cuff. And I just thought, well, if I put the placket down the back with the pretty fabric, I'm not going to be able to see it. People behind me will see it, but I'm not going to be able to see it. So I just thought, right, let's turn it, switch it up and put the placket down the front. So that's why I'm wearing this version. And I just put longer sleeves on. So I thought I would make another version today, but with the peplum, but again with the buttons down the front. So I thought I'd take you along with me. It's not a tutorial or anything, it's just watch me sew and see how I feel about both options. And if I do bring it out as a pattern, I may well consider having the button option of the placket down the front and the back, and then also with the option of the peplum. So without further ado and without any more ramblings, let's head on over to the cutting table and I'll show you my fabric that I've got, and we'll make another version of this but with a peplum. So this is my double gauze and this cute cotton ditzy print that is just a remnant, not big enough to make a garment but big enough to add plackets and cuffs and collars. So first things first, get my pieces, and you can see there I've got my front and back original olive blouse, but obviously I need to shorten it if I'm going to put the peplum on. So I'm just deciding where I want to shorten it, and I refer to my other blouse that's got the peplum on just to make sure I've got near enough the same length as, there you go, you can see that one. So I'm happy with that, just double check my measurements and ready to cut them out. And obviously, you know by now, my Lord and Master has to come oversee the situation and make sure I'm doing everything right. I swear he knows. As soon as I turn the camera on, he knows. Anyway, he's after a kiss and a love, so obviously I'm going to do that. He seriously is my shadow, but yeah. So just making all my adjustments in between getting cat fluff in my face and the usual, and struggling with fabrics and said cat. He does eventually get bored, so I just have to basically go with it until he gets bored and goes. I love him so much, so I don't mind. So yeah, so just cutting out my pieces, my two little cuffs there, and I'm trying to use my rotary cutter in between my scissors, but I seriously struggle with both at the moment. I'm having really terrible troubles with my joints, my wrists hurt. I tried the rotary cutter, it hurts. Tried my scissors, that hurts. So I'm basically going in between rotary cutter and scissors, and I do need some fresh blades in that rotary cutter. And people have asked me before about, you know, cutting near Geordie. I am extremely vigilant. I know he's there, and I would never just go willy-nilly slicing or cutting. As you can see, I always put my arm up, my hand up, anywhere near him. I would never even, yeah, I'm quite aware he's there. So people do ask me, am I not worried about his tail and what have you? So yeah, so cutting in my notches for my placket. So I have notches for the fold lines and notches for the centre front and the fold over of the interfacing part. Just cutting out, as you can see, really struggling with my rotary cutter. Just, yeah. But anyway, and blades, definitely need new blades. So just cutting out my top layer and my underlayer of my Peter Pan collar, and then I'm going to add some interfacing to the, I never remember this, the bottom layer, and then make sure I've got all my notches in, and then I'm going to cut out the rest of the blouse in the double gauze. Now, I said in the intro, I've got a love-hate relationship with double gauze. It is so soft to wear, so that's why I persevere with it. It's awful to sew with. It's got a mind of its own. It's like dishcloth in the way. It just grows, and yeah, it's not the best fabric to. I wouldn't recommend using double gauze if you're just new to sewing, because it's just a nightmare really. But definitely don't not sew with it, because it is a lovely fabric. But yeah, just be aware of that. And disclaimer here, I didn't pre-wash this one. I couldn't be bothered, and I thought, well, if it's going to shrink, I don't mind if it shrinks in the wash, because it's double gauze, so it just gets bigger anyway. So yeah, and I didn't pre-wash this one. But I'm just marking in my darts and just getting everything ready. I like to block pin and then block sew, so I'm not up and down at the machine. So I'd get everything ready, pinned, ready to sew, and then sew and then overlock while I'm all at the machine. I find it much more efficient for me doing it this way, and then block press as well. So yeah, so that's the front and the back pieces cut out. Then I've got to cut out the sleeves and then the peplum, and I've still got loads of this fabric left, so it's gone back on the shelf to be used for something else down the line. But yeah, I've still got plenty of this gorgeous teal colour, I would say, and I've still got, I'm just looking now at my shelf, I've still got a remnant of mustard left over to use, and I've got some flat double gauze in a lovely sage green and a lovely flat double gauze floral, and also a double gauze in a grey. But I'm going to use them all up because they definitely need using. And I'm going to make some cosy winter blouses. So I'm just making some bias for the neckline for the collar. So I'm just using my scraps there again. And then, as I say, pin, 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 sew, sew, sew. So for the Peter Pan collar, the top collar is slightly a few millimetres bigger than the bottom collar. That's it. When you press it, the seam rolls to the underneath, but you have to pin, literally pin the life out of it, as you can see there, to get it all to fit, because there's that slight difference in size. But don't give up, just pin everything. And here I'm just sewing my little cuffs, and then I'm just going to sew the collar. As you can see, it's just pin central, but it works every time. And then also with the double gauze, you'll see me later on, it has, as I say, it's got a mind of its own and it tends to grow. So I am also stay stitching the neckline of the front and the back pieces so they don't grow before I put the collar on. So you will see me also stay stitching, and I'm just doing the darts as well. So there you go, stay stitching just within the seam allowance around the back neck and the two front pieces, and then just pressing everything. And I've changed that awful ironing board cover. I just found some fabric and just quickly made a mini ironing board cover. That's much better to look at now than that was an awful gaudy cover that was on it before. It's still underneath there, but much prettier. So time to add the plackets, and as you can see I have just got everything pinned, the cuffs ready as well. So again, I'm not up and down at the machine. So sewing, I've gathered the sleeves, I'm just adding the cuffs and then just sewing on the plackets there. So time to add the collar, and again, pin, pin, pin. Now here you can see, even though I've stay stitched the neckline, there's a little bit of extra fabric. So all I do is add a little bit of steam from the iron and force it into submission, and it just gently goes back into shape there. So don't give up if you think it's gone a little bit big. A bit of steam and it will then go back into shape. And plenty of pins. And then I'm just going to sew the collar to the neckline. Then I'm going to clip the curves, then add the bias trim, do some understitching, and then finish off the inside of the collar with the remainder of the bias. So once the placket is stitched in place and the collar's all on, I'm going to put the buttonholes in before I add the top bodice to the peplum. I just add the buttonholes by eye. I've got both gadgets, but I still prefer to do it by eye, always. Sometimes you have too many gadgets. Anyway, just doing a test sample on my machine for the buttonholes. Always do a test, because you know what buttonholes are like. And I've got 5 buttons to put in, so I want to make sure I've got it right. Anyway, everything seems to go okay, so no problems this time. All 5 buttonholes in one go, which sometimes doesn't happen. Sometimes you just have a nightmare with your buttonholes, but don't give up. We've all had it. We all have problems, so yeah, nobody's perfect in the dressmaking. And here we go. So just now I've got to mark the placement of my buttons. I just line everything up and pop a mark with my heat erasable pen for where the buttons are going to go. Sew the buttons on, and then once they're all stitched on, then I am going to fasten the buttons so the placket's neat and tidy, and then just do a little bit of stay stitch to keep those 2 bottom parts of the placket, and then add the peplum to the bodice. And then we're just almost finished. Do the hem. I've already added the sleeves, and yeah, then this little number will be finished, and another gorgeous cosy blouse to add to my autumn winter collection. So I'm really pleased how it's turned out. Super cosy. I really do like this colour. The contrast on the placket and the pretty Peter Pan collar. As you can see, the placket's slightly different to this one, but if you're one of my Patreon subscribers, you will know the reason why. But yeah, they're both correct. They're both right. I just did them slightly differently. That's with the peplum. Super cute, really soft. It may have its downside, double gauze. It may be a pain to work with, but if you stick with it, it's worth it in the end, because you will have a super soft and cosy, comfortable garment to wear. So if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you want to join me over on Patreon, the link is in the box below. I'll show you some footage of me in the garden wearing it. I've just styled it with my denim Sadie skirt and then with a pair of jeans, just so you can see. Also some pictures of me wearing it too. But thank you so much for joining me today. Stay tuned, and I'll see you on my next video. Bye for now.